Welcome back to the show. I thought we'd get an Arsenal show on tonight. Normally we're on Lee Judge's TV, but Lee is sunning it up in Dubai, so I thought I'd give him a break and get everybody on this channel for a change and talk Arsenal. What a weekend again, people. There's nobody else really to bring on to talk Arsenal than my good friend Tom Canton, who's a friend of the channel, friend of the show. How are you, Tom?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. I feel like this is the seventh time talking about this game in 24 hours, but that's what we live for. So
Can't
that's
get
what we're
enough of
doing.
it, mate. Can't get enough of it. And of course, a man who needs no introduction, Super Kevin Campbell. How are you, KC?
I'm good, Tom. Thank you. Listen, I'm happy to talk about it. I think it's a point gain for us. We don't want to get too into it now because I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but I really do believe it's a point gain for us, mate.
Well, we're going to get into that straight away. We have got Sophie joining. Sophie's going to be here very soon. She's just finishing up over on the latte firm, and she is going to be with us very shortly. Okay, let's get into it. I spoke after the game. Tom, let me start with you. Spoke after the game. I watched it on AFTV watch along. Said to Turkish, how do you feel? And me and him both said that we felt it was 2 points dropped. In the same sentence, I said that Ramsdale kept it in us and Salah missed a penalty. So actually, I don't see how it is 2 points dropped. It's probably 1 point gained looking back at it. But after the game, it's emotional and you're deflated. And I was a bit devastated to go 2-0 up and to take a point at 2-2. Kind of frustrated me, Tom, if I'm honest with you, because I felt like we were so in control and that we should have been able to see it out to take all 3 points, but we weren't able to do so. What do you think now you've had some time to, I suppose, get over the disappointment, if it was disappointment, and to actually analyze the game a bit more, taking the emotion out of it? What do you believe? 2 points dropped or 1 point gained?
Honestly, mate, I'm still torn. I think it's a bit of both. I certainly look back at it and go, it could have ended very differently for us. Ramsdale arguably saves us, not arguably, certainly saves us the point. But at the same time, the way in which we started the game and the way in which we were going about our game and the way in which we were really playing Liverpool off the park for 40 odd minutes, you feel as though had that momentum continued in the second half, and perhaps if we'd not conceded right before half time, that we could have gone on to win that one well, not even at two, potentially even more. So we go into a lot of the details, I'm sure, about why things changed during the game, but I'm still torn because I think that, I look at it and go, this was a great opportunity, not wasted, but just missed, I think, to potentially get, obviously, a massive win at Anfield and continue that winning run. But also, we've seen what Liverpool have done at Anfield this season to teams. They've beaten Manchester City. They've beaten Manchester United 7-0. They've beaten Napoli, or arguably the other form side on the continent at Anfield this season. It's, people get bored of the saying it's a tricky place to go, but these are the facts. It is. And at the end of the day, we've managed to stay away from a defeat that many other teams have been unable to do. And I think a lot of people would have taken the point before the game started. I personally wouldn't. I thought we could go there and win. I think we showed in the game that we were capable of doing that, but things changed. And I think there are reasons behind that, as I say, that we'll go into.
Yeah, we will go into them. And KC, Tom said there a few times, and in the chat here, DJ Ash B has said that only Leeds this season have beaten Liverpool. At Anfield, obviously, they've beaten Napoli, Newcastle, Man United 7-0, Manchester City. So, of course, I think most people would take a draw at Anfield in most seasons. But you, first of all, said a point gained, and I wanted to know why you felt that, mate. So the mic is yours. Have we lost him?
Have we lost him? Is he gone? I think we may have lost him.
Either that or he's staring us out, Tom.
Yeah, he's so angry with my answer. You can just tell.
That is how angry he is.
I mean,
that is how angry he is. Are you
he's
here,
there, or we
Casey?
can hear him. Or maybe not.
Come out and come back in again, because I think we've lost your Wi-Fi. That's probably the best way to do it. Tom, let me throw this one at you. It's been put in the chat by our good friend of the show, Wilson. I felt that Xhaka was very naive by getting himself into a fight with Trent. He needed to keep a cool head, in my opinion. That moment of madness lifted the Anfield crowd. Now, it's the first thing I wanted to come to, and we will come into how great we were in 35 minutes, because I think it's massively important. But this was the first incident of the game that made me go, why? Just why? Now, I'm not so sure if we could look at the end result and think this is why we drew 2-2. But at the same time, it is something that I think could have made things a little easier for the lift in the crowd at Anfield. So I wanted to get your thoughts on this incident and whether you think it had any effects on the game, particularly the first goal.
Yeah, look, I've reflected on this moment a lot. In the emotions of the aftermath, I said it was the reason why we didn't win. 24 hours later, I think it's a reason why we didn't win. I don't think it's necessarily the reason. I think that I maybe in the emotion of after the game maybe put too much on the reaction of the crowd. I actually think in reflection, it's more so the reaction of Liverpool rather than the Anfield crowd. I think it fired up the Liverpool side more than it did the Anfield crowd. I still think there was a reaction from the crowd, which then Liverpool fed off. But I think actually it was more so the players that I think fed off of that, especially Trent, who I think arguably had his best game of the season, which wasn't entirely then surprising after that moment. So I don't now put that moment down to the primary reason why we didn't win this game. But I certainly still look back at it and go, if Xhaka just laughs that moment off, maybe the half ends differently. And if the half ends differently, maybe the game ends differently. So I don't necessarily think that it's the be-all and end-all in this game. But I certainly think that Xhaka could have been a little bit more savvy in responding and not biting to that moment. But, you know, a lot else had to happen for us to drop the points rather than that just one moment in time.
Yeah, Kev, I wanted to bring you back in. And can you hear us now? Your Wi-Fi?
Yeah. I could hear you.
Good stuff. The first 35 minutes, we smashed it. I mean, smashed it is actually an understatement. I thought we were unreal. And I couldn't believe what I was watching. This was at Anfield. I didn't expect that start. I thought it would be a hell of a lot quicker from Liverpool, but they were slow to say the least. And we absolutely annihilated them. But the incident me and Tom were talking about as you just come off was the one that I know you have an opinion on in relation to Granit Xhaka and Trent Alexander-Arnold. And a lot of people are saying that that had a massive impact on the game, the result, and the lift of the crowd. Now, I wanted to get your opinions on that because for me, you can talk about the Granit Xhaka incident and the incidents of old because he has made mistakes before. His discipline hasn't been too great. Trent Alexander-Arnold has obviously picked on the right player there to try and allow to lose his head. However, there is a debate to say that we like a little bit of fight and like a little bit of fire. But I was watching it on the watch along, so I didn't have any of the crowd noise in my ears because obviously it was on mute for that. But from what I was told, it was dead, absolutely dead. And that then lifted the crowd. And then coincidentally, 25 seconds later, they're back in the game. So I wanted to get your opinion on that and what you thought of the Xhaka and Trent example of how that could have impacted perhaps that first half.
Well, listen, if we really think Arsenal going to go to Anfield and the crowd are not going to get involved at some stage, we must live in a whole different universe. The fact of the matter is the way Arsenal played in the first 35, 40 minutes was incredible. You know, Liverpool tried to press. Liverpool did create a couple of chances. So Salah got in at one stage, and I think it's Robertson got in down the left-hand side. Left-hand side was proving to be a little bit of a problem for us at times. But the way we played, Liverpool couldn't get near us. And that's where Zinchenko coming into midfield really paid off for us. Because he was making the extra man, and he wasn't just staying on the left. He was going in between Thomas Partey, and he was making play. So, look, I understand. Yeah, the crowd got up. It's an incident. It's a coming together. But it happens in every game, guys, away from home. Every game. Arsenal, the fact of the matter is, have to deal with it. That's the bottom line. You know, they didn't score directly from that free kick. No. There was a little bit that goes on. The crowd are going to get behind Liverpool at Liverpool at some stage.
Pity we couldn't just keep them out. We got caught out down the left-hand side. That seemed to be a little bit of a Achilles heel for us in the first half at times. They got in. They got a break. I mean, Henderson tried to go for goal. And where it went, Salah didn't stick it in himself. Gabriel kicked it against him and it went in. Look, it happens. But second half, let's be honest, guys, Liverpool adjusted and they stretched us. They really stretched us. The crowd are going to be in it anyway. So trying to blame Granit Xhaka for getting the crowd up, I mean, it's nonsensical to me. Liverpool, you're not going to go to Liverpool and dominate the game for 90 minutes. You're not going to go to Liverpool without there being some incident on the pitch. That's going to happen. The key is, can you keep your head? And you know what, Dan? We come out of there, which, listen, if Salah scores the penalty, we lose. If Ramsdale don't save 3 opportunities in the second half, we lose. So for me, in the scheme of things, it's the point gained. We go to another big rival. Yeah, we don't win, but we don't lose.
Yeah, and Tom, it's interesting on that last point that Kev makes there, because I've questioned whether this team can get away with not losing the game. And there's been times where we've got ourselves excited against Manchester City and Manchester United, particularly at Old Trafford, where we got back into the game and then become naive. And I felt that although Mikel Arteta and the squad might not be at the reason as a whole as to why we got the point, you could look at Ramsdale and say that he alone got us the point. I do think that there's something about the mentality issue there about coming away from Anfield, not losing, and kind of seeing that as a bit of an improvement. And I just wanted to get your points on that in terms of we've now gone to a big ground again, a test that we haven't quite come away with the 3 points like we all wanted. And like I did feel at 2-0 we were going to. But at the same time, we haven't got battered there, which is the last 5 years has been horrible, mate. Going up there, 4s, 5s, even 3s. I hate it. I'm like, I'm not going again. And I haven't gone. And actually, I would have actually quite enjoyed that game yesterday because it had to be, for the neutral, one of the games of the season. So I wanted to get your thoughts on what this can do to us moving forward, Tom, in terms of our mentality.
I think this game, obviously it's gutting that we didn't get the 3 points, especially after what we put into the game in the first half. But I don't think that the players will be, I think that would have been forgotten about, to be honest, as soon as they left Anfield in the bus. I think they would have put that to one side thinking, look, we move, we take the point that we've got, we move on. It could have been worse. If anything, we've kept this unbeaten run going now that's at 8 games that we can go. If you think about when we went into City last time, we came off the back of a defeat against Everton, a draw against Brentford. We lost Partey in the build-up and we had to go into that City game with no momentum whatsoever. You've now got an away game against West Ham. You've got a home game against Southampton, 2 very winnable games before you then go into City, who we play with 4 days recovery, because that Southampton game's on the Friday night. It would have been on Sunday if we were in Europe, but it's not, and we're thankful for that. But I think the end of this game against Liverpool, it enables us to go in with extra confidence. And I think that, City watching this game, if I'm a City fan and I'm looking at the Liverpool performance, yes, you'd be happy Arsenal dropped points. But I'll be watching that first half and going, shit, they are shit hot, this Arsenal team. And they can come to you and it doesn't matter if they're playing at home or they're away, because our away record is excellent this season. 9 of our 12 clean sheets have come away from home. So defensively, yes, we were a little bit suspect in this game and we were suspect in the home game against City, but away from home, it doesn't matter if we haven't got the crowd there in the 40+ thousand that we'd have backing us in the Emirates. You've got the experience and the run that we've shown this season in away games. And, as you were alluding to off air, and you'll probably come onto it as well, like this idea that the drawing at Anfield means the title race is suddenly over for Arsenal. That is the complete wrong way to look at that performance. It's the complete opposite of what you really rationally should be doing. Yes, be disappointed as an Arsenal fan, but as a rival fan, if you don't watch that game and don't recognise that Arsenal have just gone to Anfield and barring, a chaotic turnaround in the second half, which is kind of born from what I'd describe as a fairly fortunate goal before half-time, which changes the entire complex of the game. Arsenal have gone to Anfield and looked like a team that can win a title in the arguably the toughest place to go in the league, and have come away from it without having the mental damaging of a defeat. And instead, say if that equaliser goes in the 95th minute rather than the 87th minute, I think maybe we're talking about things slightly differently from a mentality standpoint. But the fact that it was conceded in the 87th and we had to continue to defend and we had to pull off some big saves, that in itself will be a big boost that you can actually turn into more of a positive than if you'd lost it in the last seconds rather than the last 8 minutes. So, yeah, I think there's been some real ill-judged views on the reaction to this. And I think hopefully, or anyway, I'm taking that as maybe some naivety that may even go in our favour when we go up to the Etihad in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, well, let's hope so, man. And we'll all look forward to that one, I'm sure. Kev, I want to talk about, I always try to look at how we could have got 3 points. And of course, some people are happy with the point, but how we could have got 3 points. There was a lot of things that went our way. Salah missed the penalty. Obviously, Ramsdale was on absolute fire, and we'll come to him in a minute. But I want to bring in Chaitanya's super chat. Big up, Chaitanya. He said, KC, your thoughts on Arteta getting the subs wrong or late? Klopp made changes to win the game, and it worked. Should Arteta have done the same? Now, I want to touch on this quick because for me, Zinchenko looked like he was getting done. I thought in the first half he was outstanding, and it was as if him and Trent just swapped shirts because all of a sudden Trent was the one who was outstanding and Zinchenko was getting done a bit. Now, I would have brought on Kieran Tierney a lot earlier, and I probably would have brought on Trossard a lot earlier as well. It's easier to say in hindsight, and it's easy to say when you're sitting there watching and you're not the manager of Arsenal Football Club. However, I do think that Zinchenko getting done and then bringing Tierney on just basically made everyone go, bit late, fella, but cheers for doing it anyway. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that one.
Well, Mikel Arteta can't win, can he? Because there was Kieran Tierney ready to come on, and that's when Zinchenko gets done. He was right on the sideline looking to bring him on. But I think when you're looking at the momentum of the game, especially second half, Liverpool were on top. And we had to weather the storm for like 15 minutes. And I think we did that. We weathered the storm for 15 minutes. And then we started to get a hold of the game again. So you don't make changes when you've got a hold of the game again, because he's probably expecting Zinchenko, like he did first half, to go and play a bit more of a prominent role with us getting hold of the ball. But unfortunately, Dan, we couldn't get that grip of the game like we did anywhere near like the first half. And sometimes as a manager, you say to yourself, do I make changes now? And here's the reason why maybe he didn't make the change so much earlier. Kieran Tierney is a better defender, but he's not as good on the ball. So getting out would have been even more of a problem. Maybe that's what he's thinking. But as the game wears on, obviously penalty, missed the penalty, then you're still thinking, do I make the change now? Do I not? So listen, he's bided his time. The fact of the matter is, Kieran Tierney was there to try and bring him on. Zinchenko got done on the line. Cross still had to come in, still had to be put away. Firmino done that. Then he made the change. And let's be brutally honest here. There could have been a penalty for Liverpool when Kieran Tierney pulled Salah back. So could you imagine that was given? What would people say then? So we've got to take the rough with the smooth. I understand people want to second guess and all that kind of thing. I just think it was one of those games. Trossard came on. Trossard done okay when he come on. He's very, very good. But the key is, where do you put him? Because when you're camped on the edge of your box, there's only one ball really to play, and that's a higher ball. You know what I mean? So unless you get good possession and then you could find his feet, the ball just keeps on coming back, and that's what Liverpool are really good at. Recycling the ball to make more opportunities. And didn't they have four strikers on it at the end? 4 players, attackers on. That's why we had to adjust. It's tough, Dan. So you could say, yeah, he could have brought on Tierney earlier, but I think he was trying to bring him on. He just couldn't get him on.
Yeah, Tom, I wanted to bring you in on this one because there's a lot of fans that are saying, oh, it's too late, wrong subs, weird people to take off, don't understand Kivior. And I kind of feel like in the studio we were debating that as well. One thing everybody agreed on was, where the hell is Tierney and why is he not on here? and I couldn't understand why he couldn't get him on a bit earlier. Kev says that he's trying to, but I would have taken him on like maybe 10, even 15 minutes before he did, not 87th minute. What's your thoughts, Tom?
Yeah. I want to caveat with hey, Soph. I want to caveat
Soph.
Hi, guys.
what I'm about to say by saying, firstly, I think Mikel Arteta is brilliant. I think he's a great coach. I think that he's the reason why we're top of the league, without a shadow of a doubt. He's a great identifier of talent. I think he's a brilliant squad builder. I think his principles are spot on. Everything about this Arsenal team being top of the
You
league.
like him. I get it, Tom.
It goes to him. But if there's
There we
one thing about Arteta that I wish that he could improve, it's his in-game management. That is the area of his game that I think needs to get better. And to be pretty blunt, I think he mismanaged the second half of this game. I think the way in which we failed to take the opportunities that Liverpool presented to us, with the way in which they changed their structure, the way in which they changed the game, and the way in which we responded to their changes, was the complete opposite of, I think, what we could have done. Now, it's very easy for me to sit here in my cushy, studio here and say this, and having never been a manager in my life, it's really easy for me to say this, and I'm very well aware of that fact. But I do think that when they take off Fabinho and they go to 2 midfielders and they go to 4 attackers, you've got a choice to make there. Because in that moment, Ødegaard, who was, let's be honest, effectively useless in the second half, it wasn't the type of game that suits him at all. It wasn't the first half when we're in possession and we're firing. But in the second half, when you're under the cosh, Ødegaard, all he's going to do for you really is find a release ball here and there. When actually maybe taking him off and bringing on, say, Jorginho, who is, as I was talking to Kai Kanak earlier on, as he describes one of the best press-resistant players there is really good at kind of just calming the speed down of the opposition when you get the ball, knowing about the right decisions to make. I mean, all you need to do is watch the Champions League final when Chelsea beat Man City to see what he can do in those types of situations when you're really under the cosh as a team that's not having the most possession. And not only that, but you would have kept your midfield, you would have established your midfield advantage because, as I said, they brought Fabinho off, they brought on Nunez, and they would have had Thiago and Henderson. So you've got Xhaka, Partey, Jorginho, giving you that 3 in midfield to give you a better base to then escape and maybe grab back more control of the game. I agree with you with Zinchenko. I mean, there was part of me that thought he could have come on even at half-time, because the way in which the game was going, in which we just conceded before the break, Liverpool were going into the second half with momentum, that I felt as though it was always going to be an inevitability, obviously, when they were going to get that equaliser the way the second half was going. He could have come on a lot earlier. That's not to say that Zinchenko weren't great in the first half, because he was, and I thought he was a big part of the reason why we went 2-0 up in the first place. But the game state changed. So I think that you have to change with that. I understand why he went to 5 at the back, because, it's one of those ironies where you're looking to the bench for Rob Holding to bring on, and he's already on the field. Like, it's that moment where you want to bring on that Rob Holding type. But he had Kivior, he brought him on, and I don't think we did too badly in terms of defending it. I just think that was not the way to approach a half where it was an inevitability, as I say, that Liverpool were going to score. And if anything, the penalty miss was the biggest warning that we could have got, that what we were doing was probably wrong, and that we had and should have approached the rest of the game differently to try and wrestle back control of possession in some way and balance up the possession stats more.
Tom, I think you're talking absolute facts, mate. I think everything you just said there is spot on. Sophie, welcome, by the way.
Thanks. I bet Kev disagrees with what Tom just said.
Well, we'll find out.
Kev went first.
Kev's gone first. I do want to bring him back in on it, because I'm listening to Tom there and I'm thinking, I don't disagree with anything he's just said, but maybe Kev will. So let's see if you do, though, first. We've talked a little bit about how Liverpool, how the game was a game of 2 halves and how we controlled it. We spoke about the Granit Xhaka incident, which Kev doesn't think had a massive impact on the game, but some of the fans thought did. Got the goal back, second half performance, absolutely annihilated in parts by Liverpool at a ground which just literally is horrible to play at. And Tom come on to talk about Arteta's in-game management, and I think he's made some good points there. I was talking about the substitutions. I thought Zinchenko had a game of 2 halves, thought he was great and then rubbish, and then had to come off. And I think Kieran Tierney should have come on a lot earlier, and probably Trossard for Saka, who I thought was probably least effective, or Ødegaard in the front 3. I thought Jesus was one that was causing problems and should have stayed on. Having said that, they're still trying to get him back to full fitness, so maybe he had to come off. And the Kivior one made everybody in the studio go, huh? What the hell? So there were some weird decisions, but at the same time, in some ways, we're not talking about a loss. So wanted to get your thoughts on the kind of in-game management, particularly in that second half, Soph.
You know, I thought that Mikel Arteta, because I've criticised him before about that, and like Tom, he's been almost perfect this season. And it's very difficult to start nitpicking. And I, in particular, have said, I don't care how we perform. I just want results. Give me 3 points every single game. If we can't get 3 points, don't lose, especially don't lose to Liverpool or Manchester City or Newcastle or Brighton. So for me, where I feel Mikel has to grow into his role, the same way the young players, we are expecting them to continually keep growing in their roles and as a team, is the game management side of things. And Kev and I disagree on this. Steve Nicol disagreed. The two players agreed with the manager and the fan did not, right? And I found it interesting because Stevie Nichol's response was, because I said Kieran Tierney should have come on earlier than Zinchenko. And then I said, why bring on Kivior? He proved to you in a Europa League game that he's just not ready yet. Even if you put him next to Saliba or Gab 6, he's not ready. And then there's part of it that thinks, well, he doesn't know any better. Maybe I'll throw him in. But they're Stevie and Kev were like, what are you going to do then? Who are you going to bring on? And like Tom said, Holding's already playing centre back. He would have been the one that came on. Are you going to start tinkering now with Tierney in a left back in a left centre back position at this point in the season? No, you're not. So I think the timing of the subs were off, but I think the Kivior sub made everyone question Mikel a little bit deeper. And maybe it's not that deep because he's thinking, I just want to get out of here with a point. So I'm going to throw on as many defensive players as I can. And I think he got a little bit desperate in that situation. And I think he'll learn from that again. And I thought he had learned because early in the season, he made that mistake at Old Trafford, didn't he? We were at that game, all of us. And he brought on 3 or 4 subs all at one. And it just, it just didn't work out. I don't think he's going to make mistakes like that. And is it a mistake? It's a choice. I don't think we're going to see that too much for the rest of the season.
Interesting. Kev, I know you're dying to come in. Interesting points made by both Tom and Sophie. I think they're good points, to be fair, that are raised, but I'm sure that you and Stevie Nicol had a bit of a different view and opinion on it. So I'd love to hear it, mate.
Yeah, look, bringing players on and being offensive is one thing. When you're under the cosh at Anfield, let me tell you from a player's point of view, especially when you've got a lead to hold, you do not go to fight fire with fire because you've been defending all half. The momentum had completely turned. They brought on all the firepower. And for all the quality players that you do have, you could not get out. So they've got 4 strikers on the pitch. Kivior had to come on. And you might think, oh, what's he bringing him on for? But you need more defensive reinforcements because if you don't, you've got an extra body up there to defend, especially from free kicks and corners, because Liverpool are quite a big side. So if you've got an extra body up there, you need somebody else to be able to help aerially at the back, as well as, look, I think we've done it in the cup, didn't we, when we went down to 10 men? We played 5 across the back, and we saw out a point. And Mikel Arteta reverted back to that. We don't like it. Some could question it, but I still think it's a good point, and it's a good point gained. We can argue this one should have come on, that one should have come on. Who's to know? Who's to know? Because it didn't happen. Jorginho coming on, we don't know whether he would have made any difference. We've no idea whether he would have.
Well, come on, yeah, we would.
Would we?
And also, Kev, if he wanted to play so defensively or park the bus, he didn't play
Sophie,
defensively.
he
He parked the
didn't
bus.
want
Why
to
didn't
play
Tierney
that
come on
way.
earlier? Why didn't Tierney come on earlier then if he wanted to play that way? Why leave it so late?
Why leave Wahoo so late?
Maybe Zinchenko, maybe that mistake doesn't happen for that goal. If
No,
Zinchenko
maybe
had
it
been
doesn't.
subbed earlier.
No, but again, we're going into maybes now. So
No, but if he
maybe-
wanted to play defensively, why didn't he bring Tierney on
Sophie,
earlier?
He didn't want to play defensively. We were forced to play
We
defensively.
played defensively from minute 1 in the second half. I would have thought
No,
we would have gone
Sophie,
at them for 10
no,
or 15
Sophie,
minutes.
Sophie, we were forced to play defensively. There is another team out there, and they pushed us back. They stretched us.
No, okay. Yes, they did. Of course they didn't. Sorry, Danny.
So-
glad I
so
came.
don't say that we
Oh,
wanted to play
this
defensively
is what it's
when we
about.
didn't.
I'm glad this is what it's about.
Okay, so Kev, for the first 10, even 12, 15, not even 15,
15,
for the first
15.
15 minutes of the second half, wouldn't you have liked for us to start the way we did in the second, maybe even 10 minutes, just give it a crack and put pressure on, try and get that third goal, and then
Sophie,
park the spaceship.
Sophie, look, let me just say this.
They weren't fighting us that strong at that point,
No,
Kev.
Sophie,
They
just let me say this. When you're playing against an opposition, do you reckon Arsenal didn't want to start the game like they did in the first half and score
Yes,
another one?
I actually do believe that we had no intention of starting the
Well,
second
we
half
did.
the way we did the first.
Well, we did.
No,
But
we
the
didn't.
opposition will not allow you to do that. They stopped us doing anything. They kept us on the back foot, so we had to defend deeper.
So
That's
bring
just
Tierney on earlier. That's my point.
But Sophie, we didn't. We did not bring him on earlier, so you could argue whether it was right or wrong. I know. But like I said before to the lads, when Zinchenko got done, who was waiting to come on the side? It was Tierney. So maybe Arteta wanted to bring him on before that actually happened, but couldn't get him on.
I might like give you a bit, but your Kivior comment and Jorginho, there's no way. Like that was a mistake by the manager.
Why?
He made a mistake.
Why was it a mistake when we got a point?
Kevin, bringing on a player who hasn't even like had a competitive game in the Premier League, and you're at Anfield where we haven't won in years and
So
years, and you bring
We
on
got a point,
and-
Sophie. We
Not
got a
because-
point. We
because
went
of
there.
him.
We went there last year in the league. What happened? We don't.
We got a point because of Ramsdale in the end, not because of Mikel Arteta substituting Kivior.
It's a team game, Sophie. What's the point?
And
in-
he's
what's
hardly
the
been
point
part
in
of the
spending money
team.
and bringing these people in if they're not going to help you when you need them.
Because I saw him play against Sporting Lisbon, and
But
even
that
I
was
would have been able to
Sporting
make that
Lisbon.
decision.
This is now. The manager
Liverpool better
wanted to
than them.
shore it up at the back. On you come.
Listen, it's one of those. I was shocked.
Nice day
I
today,
didn't-
isn't it, Dennis? The weather's been.
Yeah, weather's
Yeah,
amazing,
you know.
so yeah. Listen, it is one
Hey,
of
we're
those.
bringing
man.
the hybrid squad over here, man.
Yeah, me and Dan will go. You know, you two can.
Yeah, we'll leave you to it.
Can't let him
It's
get
interesting because there's a lot of what Kev says I agree with, and there's also a lot of what Sophie says, which I agree with. I thought it was bizarre with Soph. I am bizarre by that, but at the same time, if you want to bring on an option to shore it up at the back, I don't see another option on the bench other than Kivior. So it's a hard one for me to sit there and go, "What the hell are you doing, bringing a centre half on to try and soak up the pressure?" I do and will agree that Jorginho, what Tom said, is one of the best pressure resistance players that we've got, and I agree with that. And that could have been an option, but he's gone with Kivior instead of. He could have gone with Erdegaard off and Jorginho on. There's so much he could have done in hindsight. But Kev's actually right. We've got a point, and we move on with that point because we didn't lose the game. But Soph, I'll come to you with this one. You mentioned him already. One of the most underrated and under the radar and not spoken about players in football, not by Arsenal fans, but by football fans. There seems to be some form of hatred for this guy from neutral fans, and that he's overrated and that he's just not as great as what people give him credit for. And I don't quite understand where it's come from. In the last 2 seasons that we've had this guy, I've seen him make 8 or 9 world-class saves. And I can honestly say that David Seaman, Jens Lehmann, Alex Meninga, and all the others we've had have probably made 7 or 8 world-class saves in their career. And I can look at them so vividly and remember them so right about what Aaron Ramsdale has done when I think back to the saves he made last season and the ones he's made this season. But we're talking about world-class saves from a 24-year-old goalkeeper that everybody in football laughed at. And Jamie Carragher went on record yesterday in the Sky Sports studio saying, I got this one well wrong. I was laughing, thinking, what the hell are they buying this guy for? He's been relegated 3 times. He's clearly not good enough for the Arsenal setup, let alone maybe even the Premier League. I love everything about the mentality of this kid. I love the fact that he seems to have a little bit of shithousery about him. But can we just go on record to say that he's actually a good goalkeeper that we've got here? Because there's people that don't want to give him enough credit, and I don't really understand it. In goal of the season, in a team of the season, people never mention him. Alisson, it's Alisson. Without Alisson, Liverpool would be 15th. Without Ramsdale, Arsenal wouldn't be in a title race. Let me have it right, because he has made unbelievable saves. Aston Villa onto the crossbar, world-class save. Jorginho scores. Everyone says it's Jorginho. Actually, it's Ramsdale, because if he doesn't put that in, Jorginho's getting an equaliser in the last minute. Reece Nelson, last kick of the game, winner. Everybody heaps praise on him, rightly so. What happens earlier on in the game? Ramsdale makes 2 world-class saves. We don't beat them without it. So I look at it right now and I think, do you know what? This guy, yet again, has saved Arsenal points. And I remember John Terry, when Petr Cech come to Arsenal, he said, what do you make of that signing? He will save them 7-8 points a season. Well, Ramsdale's done that already this season for us. So I just think he deserves a lot more credit from football fans, so I really do.
You know, I'm actually getting to that point where I don't care what other football fans say about my club. It annoys me and it gives me fuel to come up with show ideas and go at it. But I really am at that point now for the rest of this season. And the reason why I've come to this conclusion is the nonsense today. Look, did we want to win at Anfield? Of course. Getting a point. I started the post-game show yesterday saying I feel like this is we 2 points lost. By the time I got to the end of the show, I was like, this is amazing that we've walked out of this.
Yeah, I did that.
With a point, right? And so as a fan, you adjust your thinking. And I am going to be so open to the fans that thought that we wasted money buying Ramsdale. The same way a lot of fans thought that we overpaid for Ben White. The same way they thought, who's Tomiyasu? You know, the same screamers who wanted Mudryk and we got Trossard. The same people who question, why aren't we spending $100 million on a striker and we get Jesus? I mean, because I've been wrong too, Dan, many times. And Ramsdale is a perfect example of this Arsenal. What do you need? You need a spine, right? Ramsdale in goal. You've got a Gab 6 in the center. You've got Thomas Partey in the middle. You've got Jesus at the front. There's this spine now. There's a reliability factor. It's not just one player. It's several players. And yesterday, it was Ramsdale that saved us. And my God, we would have been having a very different conversation today. It would have been gloomy. The sky really would have been falling. I think the players would have been tough to pick up off the floor after a loss, and that type of loss as well. And we as fans, I think, would have lost total belief in the ability to close this. So that save has huge ramifications and some that we don't even know of yet.
So if you're talking facts, and Tom, you know, Ramsdale, Sophie says Ramsdale saved us. I mean, that's an understatement. I thought he was absolutely unreal. And I think when we look back at what Mikel Arteta has built here in terms of this squad, I think he's probably going to be mentioned as one of the best signings he's made because he's been consistent. He at times gets a bit cocky and it can let him down, but it's never really been any liability errors from Ramsdale, in my opinion. I can't think of many goals where I've looked at him and gone, oh my God, he's fluffed his lines, he's kicked it into someone, he's let it go through his hands, he's let it go through his legs. I don't see that. And I also think that he's good for the dressing room and the mentality of his squad. And I just wondered, Tom, how much of an important signing that will be that maybe some people won't recognise as much as they should.
Yeah, look, I think that price tags have a lot to do with some people's perception of quality in terms of players. Hence why the Mudryk deal was looked upon, I think, as like, we have to get this guy. He's going for 100 million. He must be amazing. And look, the guy's talented, you know, and I was really interested in seeing what he could do. at Arsenal. And I think that when the reaction to Mudryk was to then go and spend a quarter of what we were willing to spend on him on his alternative, or Jorginho, for instance, who we got for 10 million, the immediate response is, oh, well, that's a bit underwhelming. You know, we're not spending 100 million. Well, I can tell you that 100 million gets you Antony, and I don't particularly want a player that's 100 million if they're Antony. So I think with Ramsdale, he's just somebody that could only do, arguably, he could only go up from when he started. The only way was up, in the opinion of a lot of supporters. And that, if you're looking at, perspective of a player, that's the perfect place to be. Because if you come in with the expectation of the world on your shoulders, really the only thing that you can do is do what people are expecting you to do. But if you come in like the way Ramsdale did, if anything, I think he probably turned his situation into a positive by just going, no matter what I do, I'm going to do better than a lot of people expected me to do. And I think he's been able to do a lot more than what people expected him to do. I also think he's a really good example of, unlike a lot of the signings we made during that summer that were 50 million or less, that you don't need to go into the market and spend 50 plus million on every player to make sure that they're going to make an impact on a team that can challenge for a title, whether it's Sødegaard for 30 million, whether it's Zinchenko for 30 million, whether it's Ramsdale for 32, or whether it's Gabriel for 20 to 25, or whether it's Trossard for 25. The list goes on. Tomiyasu for 18, Saliba for 27 before Arteta came along. We were doing it before that. Martinelli for 6. Our front three cost us a combined 51 million, with Saka being free and coming through our academy. So it shows you that you don't have to go out and spend. Now, I think that there is obviously players in the summer that we are going to have to spend a hell of a lot of money in order to establish ourselves as a team that want to challenge for the title every year. But I think that it's important that when we look at trying to reinforce certain areas of the team, like arguably goalkeeper in the future, because I don't think Matt Turner will be here forever. Most second choice goalkeepers don't stick around clubs for long because they get in a position where they want to play more minutes. And Matt Turner, I assume, will want to do that in the future. And you look at right back, and you look at potentially left back if Kieran Tierney moves on. You look at the left 8 position as well, as something that we need to reinforce. And I think that Ramsdale acts as something of an example to all of us as fans, that players aren't necessarily going to cost you world-class prices, but it doesn't mean that they can't give you world-class performances.
Yeah, no, well summed up, Tom. I really think that this guy will be looked at as one of the signings that Arteta has made that has really changed what Arsenal are about. And Kev, I want to come to you on this point, because when we talk about the invincible season, we always think of Henry, Pires, Vieira, Ashley Cole. And when we actually deep it, how many people bring up Kolo Touré, Lauren, Jens Lehmann, Gilberto Silva? Not many. I kind of feel like we've got that a bit with this current crop of players, that Ben White, Aaron Ramsdale, Gabriel, Granit Xhaka have kind of gone under the radar a little bit this season, and it's all been about Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, Ødegaard, Saliba, Zinchenko. Wow. But actually, those players that I've mentioned previously have been as important, if not more. And I think Ramsdale comes into that bracket, Kevin. I wonder how much we'll look back at this season and look at moments that those players have contributed to, and think, wow, why did we not actually look at them a lot more? Because Gabriel, for me, has been our best defender this season. Ben White's been one of our most consistent and most improved players. Ramsdale doesn't seem to get a mention, but he's saving us every game. Granit Xhaka, wow, I've got no words. I never thought this guy, I was done with him. So I just think we need to look at those players, and perhaps they deserve a bit more credit, Casey.
You do. They do need a little bit more credit. I look back to George Graham. He used to have a saying about the attacking players. The attacking players were always the glory boys.
Yeah.
They're the ones who get all the glory. You score the goals, you look fancy, you're winning every week. Everybody looks to the top end of the pitch. But the foundation is built on your goalkeeper and your defense. That's your foundation. Yeah, midfield as well. Holding midfield and stuff like that, where Partey gets his flowers. Xhaka, I think, has been getting a bit more, even got a song. Let's be honest, he's scoring goals, he's doing a lot better. So I think he's there. But that defense and goalkeeper, I think, are crucial. Now, we've been top for a long time. And it's not always been pretty. Do you remember the the rows that we had against Leeds away. Do you remember that? There was murders. We won the game 1-0, but there was battles all over the pitch. The defense stood up. Ramsdale stood up when we really needed them. And you look at little pockets like that, games like that stand out. Ramsdale, listen, I got up and clapped him when I saw that we make that save.
World class.
Honestly, I got up and I clapped him because I truly hope. I know we could talk about the team and this, that, the other, and we're trying to be perfect. Obviously, we're trying to be perfect. We want Arsenal to win every game. But I really hope that save and that performance is one of the highlights in us winning the league. Because you mentioned Reece Nelson earlier on, Potsy. You mentioned other things, but saves by Ramsdale, etc. They're key moments. Jorginho's goal against Aston Villa, key moments where it turns our way. And truly, I think teams who go and win the title cannot go to Anfield and get beat. And a lot of teams who win the title don't beat Liverpool at Anfield. So I'm hoping we get a tick in the box and we can go and win the title. And Aaron Ramsdale and all those unsung players that you mentioned, Potsy, can get the flowers that they deserve. Because let me tell you, we need everybody. We do. We need everybody to win.
And you know what, Kev? If no one gives us flowers, just like Miley Cyrus, we'll buy our own.
We'll buy our own. Well said, son. Well said.
Yep.
Big up Locks, by the way. Leicester fan. It says, all right, mate. Jesse Marsh, Dean Smith instead, which is worse. We'll come into that, Locks.
Do you know what this is about a little bit? I don't know if it's about this, but David Ornstein did a piece on NBC yesterday, and Rebecca asked him about Jesse March because it looked like it was a done deal. And apparently Gary Lineker made a tweet or put out a tweet about how he wasn't sure about Jesse March. And since then, it seems like the owners went a little cool on the idea. And David Ornstein wasn't saying that was the fact. He goes, is that or has that had something to do with this? And I think people really underestimate the influence of players tweeting, pundits talking,
Gary Lineker.
Gary Lineker, Jamie Carragher, Gary Neville. These guys are on all the time building their own narrative and saying what they want. And I just wanted to let you know that was something that came up on NBC yesterday.
Wow. Well,
Sorry,
Tom.
apparently
Marsh has
Corden story today.
Huh?
The James Corden story that came out
Oh,
today.
yeah, exactly.
Apparently he
Craziness.
advised Todd Bowley to pick Frank
I
Lampard.
really hope that's true, because that is brilliant if it is true.
I can't verify it. But
I so hope
it
that's
wouldn't
true.
surprise me.
It'd be hilarious
It really
if that's
wouldn't
true.
surprise me.
March
all right,
turned
James, how you
Leicester
doing?
down.
What
That's
do you
what.
reckon?
Who's saying that? Who's saying that March
Locks.
turned Leicester down? I'm
Locks,
just telling you
Leicester.
what David Ornstein said, not what I'm saying. That's it.
Yeah. No, Locks is saying that Marsh has turned them down, but I don't know. They're in trouble, by the way, Leicester, even with Dean Smith and John Terry and Shakespeare. In my opinion, that ain't a good look. But
Would you
we'll
give
see.
that Premier League title back if it meant you staying in the Premier League for the next 10 years?
Of course they wouldn't. Of course they wouldn't. Can't do. Never give away a
No
title.
chance.
So
Never
you
give
would
away a
rather
title.
Arsenal were relegated, but win the title?
Sophie, Arsenal ain't getting relegated.
No,
so-
I'm just, hey,
It's
with
different.
Leicester
It's the
City
context
fans,
is
well,
different.
okay, Leicester City fans, I bet there are going to be some that would give that Premier League title back to stay in the Premier League for the next 10 years.
No, be
Locks,
shocked.
would you? There you go. Let us know in the chat.
Yeah,
Listen,
but why 10 years, Soph?
That's my game. I just decided to put 10 years
I was going
on
to
it.
say, you've just plucked a number
Why
out.
10 years?
Should we do 5 years? I'll just
Make it one season out. Come on.
Yeah. That's it. 10 years.
we know
wow.
it's not easy to just bounce back, Kev.
We do, but 10 years, Soph, that's hard.
10 years in
Norwich,
jail.
yeah.
Championship
I like this.
jail.
I like this from Mark as well. Good thing Piers Morgan didn't have any influence. That's quality. Listen, last question before we come to a close. Locks is saying no chance. What's he saying? No chance. The last 10 years, I wouldn't change it for the world. I'd drop down to League Two if it meant keeping the last 10 years of experience. There you go.
If you go to League Two, you can keep your FA Cup as well. How about that?
There we go. There you go. So nice, isn't she, Kev? Sophie. So
Yeah,
nice of her.
Sophie can be evil, you know. Sophie can be evil, man.
Ah,
Do you think so,
Listen.
Kev?
So you want to you go down to League Two, you keep the FA Cup as well. You're wicked. That's wicked.
True.
Listen, we're going to come to a close with these last two questions, and I'm going to ask you all these. What does yesterday's result mean for the title race? Is it a good thing for Arsenal? Is it a bad thing for Arsenal? Does it change anything? Does it mean City's in favour? Or does it just mean that Arsenal and City both have it in their hands and it's dog eat dog? Tom, let's come to you, bro.
No, I don't think it changes things all that much. I think that if anything, it emboldens Arsenal to know they can go to a place like Anfield and put on a performance of an offensive nature that we did to get us that 2-goal lead. It's a lesson. I'd much rather we learn that lesson in this game than the City game. And I think that, there's a lot to be taken from this fixture. There's a lot that Man City should be taken from this fixture as well. And there should be worrying those Man City players and some nerves growing based upon what they saw from this Arsenal team and how they performed in this game. So for me, it's all about the next two. We can all talk about City when it comes, but you got to beat West Ham and you got to beat Southampton. And as Arteta's been saying, we're taking things a game at a time. But those two games, can easily define this season for us. Drop points, neither of them, I think the title goes. Because I think we have to be pretty much perfect to avoid not falling out of this title race too early. And we need to make sure that we go into that City game with a lead intact. And I think the only way that happens is if we beat both of West Ham and Southampton. So yeah, look, for me, nothing's changed. I think Arsenal still, I'm very confident we can indeed win the title, but ask me again in 2 games' time and hopefully I'm saying the same thing.
Sophie.
Get a point at the Etihad, and those are the points that all Arsenal fans want them to drop, because I have them winning out for the rest of the season. So we got 2 things we're in control of, Dan. Our destiny is in our hands right now. It's down to us. And the second thing is if there's a team that can try and get something out of City, we have that opportunity too, because we have to play them. If we didn't have to play them, this might be a little bit different. But if you want to win the title, go there, don't lose, get a point. And I truly believe if we achieve that, we can go on. This is the first time I'm saying this. If we can get the point there, officially on your show, we can win the title.
Wow, I love the optimism, man. I love it. Kev, do you think that there's more points to be dropped here for both Arsenal and City? Because there's a lot of people talking about 100% record. No one's going to lose. Well, one of us is going to drop points, or both of us are, because we've got to play each other. I just think it would be foolish to assume that Arsenal and Manchester City are going to win all their games other than that fixture for the rest of the season. But maybe I'm wrong.
Well, when we see the standard of the running that Manchester City usually do, they don't drop many points. So there might be a draw in there somewhere after a Champions League game or something. There might be a loss, which we hope is against us, because that then makes it a 6-pointer. But there is some, look, in that sense, drop points, but we keep our unbeaten record. Going back to jump on for the part, not losing at Anfield rubber stamps our credentials. You can go and win the league now. You didn't lose at a big rival. You can go and win the league. I think the players will be a little bit disappointed, just like Tom mentioned, Sophie mentioned, you mentioned. You feel being 2-0 up, you could have done it, but we go away with a point. I think the players would be, okay, we can do this, guys. We can do this. Because there ain't many teams out there, let's be honest, that can throw on four forwards with the quality that Liverpool have, that can play not only on the floor, but can play in the air as well and stretch you. There ain't many teams that can do that. So I'm pretty confident of that, Dan. I'll be honest with you. The key to it always is, if we turn up and we play our game, we can beat anybody. And that's what we have to do. Take one game at a time, beat West Ham, beat Southampton, and we go into this Manchester City game. Who knows what they're going to do? We expect them to win. But the key is it's in our hands. We beat them at the Etihad. I don't want to draw. I want to win. Just like I did at Anfield, I want to win at the Etihad. Because if we win at the Etihad, it puts them down and it creates an even bigger gap. So we can do it. And I honestly believe that game yesterday was that rubber stamp that, okay, you're now qualified to really challenge them now.
Yeah, and you fill me with confidence when you're saying that every single game we go into, if we play our game, we can win. We can be anybody, and I do believe that. I really do, and that I
As
include
long as
Man City
everyone's
with that.
fit.
Yes, and that's of course that goes without saying. If you're going to lose Partey and Saka and Jesus and all this, it's very difficult then. And that's what happened towards the back end of last season. I just hope we don't get a repeat of that. Where we go
And
to
Da-
Newcastle
Dan,
with
the-
half a
the-
team.
The other thing too is, guys, Man City have ruthlessly won the title by a point twice. Liverpool fans crying in this. I tell you what, we don't want to lose this title on goal difference.
Do you know
That
what's
would be
mad, Soph?
devastating.
So I'm going back 6 games, maybe even 7 or 8 games. And my mate of mine said to me, go on in, what do you reckon? Predict it all. I said, I hate predicting it because I do Super 6 every weekend and I ain't got near winning once. So I don't like doing predictions.
A lot of people haven't, to be fair. Dan.
A lot of people haven't, yeah. But I get like out of 30 points, I get like 2 if I'm lucky sometimes. So I said, I don't really know if I'm doing that. He says, go on, just have a go. And I did. And I tell you what I predicted. Arsenal, 92 points. Manchester City, 92 points. Manchester City win on goal difference. And he went, never going to happen. I said, all we need to do is draw at Anfield and lose at the Etihad, and that could happen. And now I'm sitting there thinking, why did I say that? Why did I say that? I should have just shut up. Shouldn't have said anything and said, I ain't playing this game. If that happens, I'll be devastated. I'll be devastated because whatever, if we lose by 10 points, 1 point, but to lose on goal difference.
I just choked up just thinking about it.
Imagine. Anyway, let's not imagine. Let's not imagine. So my last question is this. If we do win the league, it will obviously be incredible. And it will go down as one of the best ever, in my opinion. Youngest manager, youngest team. Against a City team with Haaland, you can big it up as much as you want. If we lose it and we do come second, I want your honest opinions about the assessment of this season. Because some people will love it. Bottle jobs, no trophy to show for it. It's a failure of a season. If you want to look at it, has it been successful? You can't say it has because there's nothing to show for it. If you want to talk about our future and talk about how far we've come, the development and what we're moving into in the next period of this Arsenal reign, I do think that we're in a very good position. So I want to get your honest opinions about what would happen if we aren't quite able to get across the line. Tom, we'll start with you, man.
I'll be gutted. I'll be absolutely on the floor. And, there may not be an 8 a.m. show the next day. Let's just say that.
Well-deserved lay-in, you mean, Tom?
Yeah, I might need a morning to recover. But look, I think upon reflection, what I'll be thinking is, I didn't expect this season at all. I didn't my expectation in the Arteta process was that we would get here to a stage where we're competing for a title, but I didn't think it would come this quick. And I will end the season initially with disappointment, but I think that disappointment will turn into excitement that my club is kind of back, and looking at trying to achieve things that I didn't think were going to be happening for a fair while, if ever, again, for a long time, where we were just kind of lost in the midst of top 4 and down to 8th place at times, and, in a real purgatorial period. And I think that I'll be looking at this season and going, you better watch out for Arsenal next season because we're coming for you again if we don't win this. But my God, Dan, I'm hoping we fucking do it.
Listen, I do as well, man. I do as well. And I hate questions like this, but it's interesting for me to see where your heads are at because there's a lot of people that could lose their minds, meltdown galore. And I just want to make sure we're actually down to earth for a second and realize what we've seen this season. Sophie, where are you at?
So last year when we didn't qualify for the Champions League, I stood by the team and said they've made me enjoy football again like I've It's been years since that's happened, and I felt like if that was the goal, I was happy the fact that we just got back into Europe. This one's going to hurt much, much, much more because you're so close, and we've led for most of the way this season. So I can see how people will see it as a failure if we don't close the deal. I've just enjoyed the journey, and I want to win it. I want to win it bad, and I want to win it so bad so I don't have to deal with the aftermath from everybody that isn't an Arsenal fan. And I think we can, but it's going to take a lot for us to just stay in the game and do it. And I'll tell you something, Manchester United and Liverpool fans who are rooting for Manchester City to win the title, I don't get it. And let me tell you why I don't get it. Just a few weeks ago, these same fans were destroying City for the dodgy dealings, wanted them relegated, wanted asterisks next to their titles, wanted them completely punished. And now they want said team that they've argued about buying and their owners to win the title over a team that has great history in English football, that has done it the right way, that has the youngest team, that has one of the biggest superstars coming in the planet in Saka, who's lovable. I don't understand. And I just don't get that. And I think it's embarrassing, to be honest with you. They want to call Arsenal fans embarrassing sometimes. They should be embarrassed. You get battered 7-0 and you want to come at us. Sorry, Dan, I had to say that.
There is a reason. The reason is because Man City are there and they're going to be there, right? They're going to be there for the future. If Arsenal win the league this season, it's City and Arsenal for the future. They've got to worry about two clubs dominating things at the top. And I still think even if we don't win the league, we can go forward and still look to try and dominate in the future. But I think that's one of the reasons. Another reason is Arsenal fans on the whole, we're not a likable bunch. I will be honest about that.
But neither are Liverpool fans or United fans. We've all got unlikable fans.
It's tribalism, isn't it? But the thing is, City on their perspective, I don't think I've ever come across getting into a debate with a City fan, to be honest. I know Dan will, because obviously he hosts a few of them on his channel. But I don't think I've ever come into contact with a City fan and had a debate or a back and forth on social media ever. So I think that there is aspects to why they don't want us to win. But I completely understand where you're coming from with your thoughts on it, and it does make sense.
Nobody wants us to win it. I love it. Nobody wants us to win this title.
I dream. I've got things planned.
The streets aren't ready, Sophie. That's all I'm saying.
I've been stealing that, Dan Potts, and I've been crediting you for it.
Good
yes,
goal.
mate.
Good goal. Casey, last word from you on this one. What does it mean? Well, we know what it means if we win, but when it comes to if we just miss out, why should we be happy still?
There's always a bigger picture. The bigger picture is we wanted a team who can compete. We got one. We win it, obviously great. That's what we all want. If we don't get there, the big picture is we're just not quite strong enough yet. But this team, you make the right additions again, because there's going to be Champions League football. We've got to make the right additions and go for it all. We've got to go for it all. Our squad just isn't strong enough. Even if we win it, guys, I'll be honest with you, we would have won it by bucking the trend of the league, if we're honest. Because you look at our squad and you look at the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City, etc., even Spurs. They've got a more mature squad than we have. We're bucking the trend as the youngest squad. So if we can do it this year, Tom makes a good point. If we can do it this year, all those teams have two teams to fear. But I think they're going to fear us now anyway. And a lot of the ridicule, if we don't win it, will be few. It's like, well, we've dodged a bullet there from getting, watching the Arsenal fans celebrate. But we're coming. We're here. We ain't going anywhere. We're only going to get stronger. So that's the big picture for me. Win or lose, the big picture is we're going to get so much stronger after the summer. because we have to.
Facts. And it's mad to think that we could win this title with the likes of Eddie Nketiah, who was laughed at, Rob Holding, who was laughed at, Jorginho, who was laughed at when we signed him, Chaka, who everyone said, get the hell out, he's not quite good enough, he's not made it. Players that were laughed at, 50 million, Ben
He said
White,
it.
Ramsdale, Ramsdale, not good enough, Tommy Asu, who it would just be beautiful. And do you know what would be even more beautiful? Is seeing Jamie O'Hara cry, Gary Neville cry, Richard Keys cry, all these people that are allowing Arsenal to be relevant again and absolutely cannot stand the fact that we are. It'd be beautiful to watch. And
Dan,
you know,
and then we could do a
honestly,
song. Don't cry for me, Arsenal haters. The truth is, we never left you.
facts, and we will all be singing that. Listen, I hope it happens. I really do, and I think that there's a lot of football to play before we can start to get really exciting or nervous or both or whatever you want to call it. But the way we're playing at the moment, I like Kev says, I really feel that we've got a great chance, and we have to do this, man. This team deserves to win, Sank. I keep saying it this year. It's the only thing we've got left to win, and if we walk away with a Premier League title, the streets are not ready. Big up everyone in the chat. Please smash a like on this. Do me a favor. I am about 54 away from 8K. So make sure you like and subscribe, peeps, because that would be amazing to
Come
get me
on,
up to 8K.
come on, get his
Come on, everyone.
Get his 8K going. Come on.
Thank you, people. Let's get us up to 8K. Big up, Tom Canton. How can people follow you, mate? And of course, thank you for coming on, bro.
No, pleasure as always, mate. Pleasure as always. Make sure you subscribe. Get him to 8K. He deserves it. It's one of the fastest growing football. I say football because it's not just Arsenal, and that takes extra skill to do. So, yeah, certainly be subbed. Or you can sub to me, and I'm only 24 away from 46K. So, yeah.
There we go. Get us
By the
both
way,
up. Get me up to
we're-
8 and come up
and
to 46.
We're only 10 away from 13.7. So
Come
There you
on,
go.
people. Come on, people.
There you go.
We can
Do
all
it.
for all of
No,
us
pleasure,
tonight.
Dan,
There
as
we go.
always. Always happy to jump on another chat.
Thanks, Tom. No, you're a legend, man. And make sure, chat, you probably already are, but make sure if you're not, that you're over to the Gooner Talk TV and get Tom towards 50K, which is crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. So fair play to you, man. You're a madman still, I think, for 8 a.m. every day, but fair play to you,
Yeah.
bro. It works for you and it works for the chat. I absolutely love it. So fair play to you. Sophie, Highbury Squad, make sure you get over to Highbury Squad. A lot of them in the chat, a lot of squaddies over here. Great to see. 13.7K needs to happen tonight, people. So make sure you get yourselves over there. If you haven't seen it, I honestly recommend tonight's show with Super Kevin Campbell, and of course Stevie Nicol, and of course yourself, Sophie. Fantastic. I watched
you.
it and loved it. And he's what a guy, by the way. What a guy.
we love Stevie. And when he and Kev get together, it's epic. So, yeah, have a listen. And it's good. He shockingly defended us. It was
Wow.
unbelievable. You won't even believe it. Yeah, you have to
The
hear it
loud
for
back.
yourself.
That's put it that way. He's allowed back on.
He had Arsenal fans agreeing with him and disagreeing with Kev. It was crazy.
Oh, love it. Love it.
Gotta love that, man. And Kev, of course, always a legend. Love having you on here, mate. And of course, on all the content we do. Love for that, bro. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
No, you're welcome, Dan. Great channel. Good to see you moving in the right direction as well, Dan. And listen, I love some of the content because there's some great banter on with some of these other teams. I tell you, brilliant. I can't wait to see it. And listen, let's get Dan up to where he needs to get to. It really important, guys. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kev. No, I appreciate that. And thank you all for coming on. Make sure you smash a like and sub on the way out, people. If you can help me, that would be amazing. We're going to be back with another show tomorrow night where Tobes, Lawless, myself, Dan, Errol, Pete, and Lewis will all be back to talk about the weekend, which has been a very fiery one, as always. So we'll look forward to that tomorrow night at 10 p.m. tomorrow evening after the Champions League game. So we'll be straight on live after that. So we'll see you then, people. See you next time. Take it easy. And, of course, up the Arsenal.